Good morning, all, and welcome to an online session. This would be probably the first online session of this semester, and I'm sure that you can recall your old days of attending the sessions online, mechanics of solids, and all. So, again, I welcome all the students, and I can see many of them are still joining, so let them join, and please enter your details in the chat box as usual as a source of attendance. I hope I'm audible to all of you, and you can see my screen also, so please respond to this whether I'm audible or not. And I hope this screen is visible, and please enter your enrollment number and names as usual. As I said, this will bring you to the nostalgic feeling of the attending sessions online. I can see 20-25 students are there. So please start entering your details in the chat box. Since it's a first session, we'll see to it. We'll wait for a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, and then we'll proceed. I hope my screen is visible. You can just put yes in chat box so that I can get it. Anyone can put yes over there. Yes, sir. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So thanks for your response. And let me see. Let others to join. I hope you all are safe during this again a critical situation. Please maintain your best hygienic practices as you used to do in the earlier times, and we should not compromise on any of the component. So stay safe, take good food, and maintain the social distancing, and keep everything intact so that we can fight against this critical situation. So please enter your details in the chat box, those who have recently joined, because chat box is the way of taking your attendance. So you can write your name and your enrollment number in the chat box so that we can begin with the session. All right. So I can see there is a progress. So we'll go with this. Now, in the last session, I think we already have discussed how to obtain the internal forces, and we were all set to appear in the exam also. However, due to this condition, we could not go for that. But that doesn't stop us moving further in the syllabus in any ways. And I also had a chat with your lab in charge faculty, and he reported me that now most of us are clear how do we get the internal forces in the open frames. So should not be a problem taking it further. So it's a good time to let's say start the new topic in the syllabus, and that's the last topic in the syllabus of unit 1, that is determinate structure. We'll be involving now in the analysis of the determinate truss system. So I would like to first give you some idea what is this truss and how does it work, how it look like, and why it is important to analyze the trusses, where you will be facing truss design in your upcoming time or in a career. In case if you come across to the design of the truss system, how you should handle it. So just focus on the screen activities. I will try to give you a live example in the upcoming session, that is in next session. But in today's session, I will simply introduce the truss system. So going to be a kind of explanatory or little bit of theoretical session today. So just get prepared for that. I can see 30 to 33 students are there in this group. So please enter your details in the chat box, because in chat box there are only 10 entries I can see. So please do it as soon as possible, because in the end you won't be getting that time. So it is always good to have that practice, that enter your details in the chat box for attendance. Right. So I think the screen is moving. Right. So let me unmute any one of you. Vishwajit, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So is my screen moving?
No, sir. I can see the slide of disclaimer.
All right. So that's a problem I've been facing since morning. I'm trying to scroll the slides, but somehow it's not happening. Anyways, let me try it again by again sharing it. Just check, I have changed the slide. Is it visible now? Or still you have that old slide?
Sir, it is just old slide.
It is the old slide. Okay. Because in that case, it will be difficult for all of us to getting connected. New share. Screen. Screen. Now, Vishwajit, I have changed it.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, so you can read structural analysis 1 units and all.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So that means it is working now. And it's a request to all, since after a long time we have practiced this. So in case in middle, if the screen sharing stops automatically, just let me know, please, so that I can do the needful. So in our journey, we have completed fundamentals of the statically determinate structures, and now we have reached to the another topic, that is analysis of truss system. In future, will be calculating the displacement of the determinate beams by using different methods, and finally we'll go for column and strut analysis. So I hope this picture is now visible to you. So this is the glimpse of the truss system, right? You can see here there is a triangle shape of the members. I hope the picture is visible to you. If it is not, then you can raise your hand. Otherwise, it is okay from my side. I have shared it. So I think this is visible. Is it visible, Vishwajit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that means it is working now. So thank you for responding. All right, let's move ahead. So here you can see that whenever there are the slope roof, right, in the buildings, we require some support system to support this roof, right? You can see here the orange part. That's a typical roof that we come across several times in our daily life also. Like this is very usual and common practice for industrial structures as well. So this may be an example of a warehouse, or where the large space area is needed and where you don't want to have vertical supports in between. So the best practice is using the truss, right? So this truss is, after all, what? It's a structural arrangement of the linear members in a typical repeated geometry, ideally of the triangular shape. If you have your writing tools with you, you can note down these points also, or keep noting the important points that we discussed throughout the session. So I was discussing that what is a truss? It's a combination or a geometrical arrangement of the linear members with repeated geometry of a similar units, ideally arranged in the triangular pattern. So here again, where my cursor is moving, you can see some triangles are typically placed, which creates one truss. So this is one truss, this is second truss, this is third truss, fourth, 5, 6, 7, likewise. And you can see that all the trusses are made out of the metal sections, and they are connected with these horizontal members called rafters. And above the rafters, we have purlins. So here you can see these are the purlins. This is a better way. This is a better use also. Like above the purlin, you have some. If it is a roof material, you can rest your roof material over here. If it is a metal sheet, you can use metal sheets also. It's up to your choice. But typically, we all have seen at least this type of structure somewhere at least once in our lives now, right? So this is a very common structure, but it is interesting equally how to solve this problem for the member forces. So even in case of this is a, let us say, we can say an extension of the earlier topic, that calculating the internal forces in the member. In a truss, all the members are linear members. They are placed in a one plane, two-dimensional plane, and all are subjected to either tension or compression only. So there is no other type of the force which is applied in this members, and that's why the overall structure is very light weighted. You can see here all these trusses are very linear, very thin, and a very limited number of members are provided, which are bare minimum required. So overall roofing weight can be reduced, right? So that is a speciality of the truss system, that it gives you very lightweight structure as far as roofing is concerned. Second thing is it is very economical also, and it is very efficient also, with which you can span the structures between one support to another support. Here again you can see where the cursor is moving, one part and second part. So in between there is no vertical support. So that means you can avoid the vertical members, and you can have a large free space, right? So the crux of this discussion is, or the conclusion on this slide is, a truss system is a very structurally efficient structural system which bears very thin linear members, reduces the self weight, and also does not undergo any type of flexural deformation, right? So that's a common request to one and only, that one and all, that if you have specific queries, if you have questions in your minds, please write them in the chat box. I will be going through all the questions at the end of the sessions and try to reach to you individually through your email ID. Don't worry, I'll be solving your doubts. I'll be giving you the answers in case. But during the session, we need to focus on whatever is going on. I will try to elaborate as maximum as possible, but at the same time, we need to stick to the schedules also. So that's why, that's my request to all of you, that if you have a particular query, question, doubt, whatever, you please mention it into the chat box, and I will go through the chat box at the end of the session as usual. Earlier we used to do that, and I'm sure that we had a very good interaction based on that also, right? If you remember. So we'll follow the same old pattern of attending online sessions. This is the only limitation of the online session. So continue to that discussion. My point is, why should we study this structural system? Because we want to obtain the internal member forces of the individual members. Since the truss is a combination of linear thin members arranged in a particular geometrical shape, we should understand that the top members of this truss system are primarily subjected to compression. and the bottom members are primarily subjected to the tension, right? And the internal diagonal members are always in a combination of either compression or tension depending upon the geometry itself. So how should we approach the analysis? Our aim or the objective of doing it is we want to analyze this truss system, two-dimensional plane truss system. And the overall structure is determinate because we want to find, first of all, the support reactions. Now, in our problem statement, you will be provided forces at each joint. So in truss system, we assume that the forces, let me use some pen over here if it is possible. So here I'm trying to draw the point loads. So we will be analyzing truss system by assuming that at each joint we have the forces, right, which are applied as point loads only. And this, due to this point loads, there are some member forces induced in other members also. Like here, I'm showing you the application of point loads, and these point loads will be further transferred to the internal members. So in case of the internal members, let me draw it. These are the internal members. You can see here. I'm drawing it with the yellow color. I'm sure that it is visible to all, and please understand, be passionate enough so that I can discuss what I want to discuss in this online session. So these are the internal members, including top and bottom members. So let me show you the top members also. Let me use this green color. These are the top members, right, called chords. They are ideally said or called as chords. And the bottom member, let me use another color. So I'll be selecting this color, which is not visible. So let me use another dark color, the black lines. So I'm creating these lines, black lines here. These are the tie members, right? Why they are called tie members? Because they are primarily under tension. So in bottom members, we have tension. In green top members, we have compression. And in this yellow internal diagonal members, we have either combination of, suppose this member is in compression, so this next member will be in tension likewise, right? So that depends on the arrangements and the further support system. So that exactly what you want to calculate, right? And further, you need to apply this point loads at each joint. Now, the beauty of doing it is when you apply joint loads, there is no bending which takes place in any of these members. So all members, including top, bottom, and internal diagonal members, no member will be facing any bending moment. So there is no need to calculate bending moment as such. But in our problem statement, you will be given the support conditions, like one end will be, let us say, roller support, and the second member will be a hinge support, right? So that you can calculate all these reactions at a particular end, and then you can start calculating the member forces. So what happens is, how to simplify this, because you will be provided with all the dimensions, center to center, horizontal distances, let us say a distance between these 2 point loads. Today I don't have that digital pen with me, so I'm managing with mouse itself, so lines may not be straightforward, but you can get an idea. What I want to discuss here is horizontal distance of each point load will be given to you, or will be made specified in, make specific in the question itself, so that it will help you to take moment of all this applied point loads about any of the support. So the first step that you need to follow in truss analysis is to obtain the support reactions. And usually we can name it like point A, point B, or in whatever fashion you want, right? Ideally, you can go in a sequence like A, B, C, D, E, F, likewise, and then you can find out the reactions at either end depending upon the type of the supporting systems. That will give you vertical reaction here. Here you will be having another vertical reaction. As such, there is no horizontal thrust, so horizontal reaction will not be there. So with that answer, you can start analyzing the entire truss one by one. So in future, you will see that we have two methods to solve this type of problems, which is namely categorized as method of joints and method of section. Now this part, that is a truss analysis, which is very nicely discussed in the books which I have already shared with you earlier, like structural analysis by Bayer and Johnston, or the Hibeler. Whatever book you select, you will get elaborate discussion on the initial steps which are required for the analysis. Also, I will provide you some theoretical support before we move further for the numerical solution. So with this preamble, I think you have got some idea that what exactly we are going to do in this analysis of the truss system. So for example, if I have got, I'm using this free space here. Suppose I have calculated a reaction. You can see some work is going on here. Suppose I have got reaction as, let us say, 10 kilonewton as a reaction randomly. I am giving you an example only. Suppose, and you can see in truss system, I have two members connected here. Right. So what I will be doing is, by using method of joints, what I can see that equilibrium of each joint in the truss system. So this is a one joint that you develop here. Likewise, every node is a joint. Like this is a joint, this is also a joint. This itself is considered as a joint. All joints are there. Like one by one, you can go to each of the joints one by one, and that will give you a kind of equilibrium equations. And here we need to use only two equilibrium, that is sigma v and sigma h. One by one we can check them. So here you can see with the geometry you can calculate this angle, right? Let us say this is 30 degree or something, and we will convert this member itself into the forces, and we'll assume, unless and otherwise, in case of method of joints, all members are in tension, so they should be going out from the source of the connection. So this is one member, this is another member. So now we have converted that member itself into the force. So this is, let us say, force 1. You can name it according to the points, like suppose this is C and this is D. So you can call this as a force CD. You can call it force CD also, right? And you can find whether it is in compression or tension. If your final answer is in minus, then you can say it is in compression. If your final answer of FCD is positive, then we can say it is in tension, because we all know that compression will reduce the overall member dimension. So we are considering tension as compression, and plus will be, that is extension of dimension. So that is positive, that is tension. So if this FCD value comes in negative, we will say that it is in compression, and if it is in plus, so we'll call it tension. At the same time, as you know, as usual, when you get your answer in reverse direction, you can flip this dimension, I mean, or the direction of the force into the reverse direction. So you can convert tension into the compression according to the answer that you have received. So all these things we'll be doing in live session. That means online live session. I will be calculating everything step by step. So do not worry about it. Today I'm just giving you a glimpse of how to solve it. So with this preamble, once you have this FCD, let us say I want to have answer of this FCD. I will be having an angle let us say 30° for example. Pardon the writing because they are not as decent as they should be. Suppose this is 30°. So now what I can do, I can divide these fours like FCD in vertical and horizontal components, right? Further, I have one more horizontal force. So I'll be taking, let us say this name is FD DT, whatever, right? So if I have how many members in vertical direction, now how many forces in vertical direction? 1, and FCD sine theta. And here horizontal will be FCD cos theta. So I have 2 horizontal forces and 2 vertical forces. I'll be using them independently by applying equilibrium conditions and try to solve the problem with the help of unknown forces. Once I have unknown forces known to me, I can go to the another equation and solve the forces which are unknown to us. So this is a very primary way of explaining how the method of joints for analysis is done. So I just gave you the glimpse of how to use sigma V, sigma H in the calculation. Another method that is called method of sections, which gives you a flexibility to directly address the member force calculation without going to each and every joint. Now, whatever just now we have completed here, let us say this is a joint 1, which is, let us say here, right, in this case. Now you can go to joint 2, joint 3, joint 4, joint 5 and repeat the entire procedure for all the members connected. So you will find that in some joints there are more than 2 or 3 members connected. Likewise, here in this joint, you can see that there are total 4 members, one horizontal here, second horizontal here, another diagonal member is here, and another diagonal member is here. So all these 4 members are connected at a joint. So out of this, at least 2 members should be known to us so that we can solve rest of the unknown forces by using same equation, sigma V, sigma H. That's all, right? So the only thing that you have to do is get the angle of inclination of these diagonal members and convert them into the components like sigma V, sigma H, Fy and X, like vertical cos theta, horizontal cos theta, vertical sine theta. Likewise, you can divide these members in 2 components and you can keep doing this calculation for all joints. So at the end of the calculation, there will be all forces available to you, including minus and plus signs. So minus will be recognized as compression in the members. So mostly top chord members will be in compression, and the bottom black members you can see here all are in tension. So that also you can register here, right? So that will provide you all the member forces. So this was regarding the method of joints. Now, in case of method of section, directly you can cut the entire truss in 2 parts such that not more than 3 members are being cut in a same section. This is a section line. The red line just now I have developed here is called section line, and within the section line the only constraint is there should be only 3 members within that section which is being cut from any truss system. And remember, always you can use as many sections as you want. Suppose I want directly the answer of member forces in this member, this diagonal member. So what I will do is I will put a cut like this. So by this, this member is being cut, this member is also being cut, and this member is also being cut. So 3 members are being cut over here, and I will be able to consider equilibrium of left hand side as well as right hand side. So whichever gives me this unknown force, that I will be considering. So I just wanted to give you this comparative idea of these 2 methods. There is a third method called geometrical method or graphical method, which requires involvement of the graph and scaled drawings also. So that is little bit less practical as far as the examination is concerned. So we shall not be focusing on that primarily, but definitely we'll go through the details of graphical method as well once we complete method of joints and method of sections. So it is needless to add that if truss system is small, or if the truss is a very small structure, like only few members are there, only few joints are there, then definitely you can utilize the method of joints, because you need to address all the joints together. If the truss is large in the number of members, then specific member forces can be calculated by using method of section in that case. And likewise, we can use graphical method also. So with this preamble, with this introduction, let's move ahead and let's go ahead in our discussion. Let's see how the thing works, right? Okay. So you may have seen this type of image, I mean the actual trusses, a truss system somewhere during your practical life. And this is definitely a timber truss. You can see that there are some diagonal members, there are some vertical members. This is called strut, and this is called the diagonal member. The bottom member is called tie member, and this is the strut or the raft member, which is the top chord member. So it's a combination, and you can see the triangle is repeated somehow. So all these are nothing but a good triangle. Let me take you to the geometrical. Since it is the first lecture, I am elaborating a little bit. So here you can see a closed triangle like this, right? Here another triangle is there, right? Here again, you can see a triangle, right? And likewise, it is symmetrical on both sides along the vertical axis, right? So likewise, you can see that all are ultimately the members arranged in a triangular pattern. So what we can expect is you will be given point loads at these locations, right? These are called joints, right? Where they are meeting, this is a joint itself, right? So at each top joints, you will be provided the point loads, and here there is a last joint, so you can expect forces here also. And then you can calculate member forces as I just now have explained to you. Top of the top, you can assume that one end is, let us say, supported on roller, and the another member is having a hinge supports. That's why you can solve this probably the entire truss, because then it becomes the determinate structure. So likewise, you can see that all are arranged in a typical triangular pattern. So the ultimately, once you have the forces, like suppose you have force in this member, you can treat this joint and get the unknown other values like here and here, right? So likewise, we have to carry on. Okay. So let me change it. Okay. Now it is not always necessary that it's not always necessary that truss is a typical system like this only triangle is like roofing only. This is also a very good example of a roof system, where you can see some teeny triangles are provided, and that also serves as the purpose of the truss system only. This is called N type of truss, capital English N alphabet, right? Because it develops the N type of trussing system. And you can see that it is given a slope also. So just to articulate a roofing system in malls and in let's say airports and other places like railway stations, and where you don't actually want to have vertical members to support the roof, you can utilize the truss system in an articulated way or in an industrial way also. Industrial shades are the best example for the truss system, and you can search on the internet and plenty of images you can find over there, right? So I'm just giving you an idea. Now this sketch illustrates various type of the components in a typical truss. This is a typical truss where I can say that these are the timber trusses, but there are various materials nowadays being used in the truss system. It started with the timber, but now you can see the steel trusses are gaining popularity, and most of the truss system are steel roof system, because it is easy to erect, it is also easy to demolish, or you can reuse them if your span, overall span is same, and if you require the same height of the structure, you can use one truss removed from the one location and reuse in the other location, other setup. So it's very easy to work with the truss system. The only thing is you need to remove the trusses from the joints only. There is no need to separate each and every member. The only thing is you should have a very good transportation system. So the entire truss as a whole unit, you can transfer from one location to the another location easily. So that is the level of flexibility that we receive in truss system, right? So I have mentioned all the important terms earlier in this previous discussion, like bottom members are called the tie members, diagonals, and top joints, right? So there are some other members which you may find that roofing sheet is there, then purlins are also there. These terms are largely matching with the timber truss system. So there's no need to remember all this because it's not needed. But I will be sharing some reading material to you also, some sketches to you also, which gives you a clear idea that what are the basic members and their names in the truss system. This is an example of a steel roof truss. You can see that how the members are connected. So in your problem statement, you will be having forces given at these sections. Let me change the color. You will be having this point loads like this at this joint, right? So generally the roofing system, roof material is used as galvanized sheets, metal sheets, or the AC sheets, and then asbestos cement sheets are also used. Like this is the purlin that you use. This is nothing but an angle, steel angle, and with that you connect your roofing system. This is a construction detail, and right now if you don't focus on that, that's completely fine. I just wanted to say this is called a joint, right? This is a joint, and you can see how many members are connected together. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So together we have 5 members connected at the same time at same location. That is why it is forming a joint. So while analyzing this joint, you should at least come to know about minimum 2 members forces, because in our method of joint, we are going to begin with method of joint. So all the members will be converted into the forces. So ultimately, this is going to be my concurrent coplanar force system, where I will be applying all these forces in tension ideally. And if I receive any of the member as reverse direction or minus value, I will say that that is the compression. So right now, I have assumed that all my forces, which I have converted from members, are working in tension. But if I receive any of the member value as negative, I will simply redraft it as compression, right? So likewise, at some joints, you have limited number of members, like this is member 1. So I will convert it into the force. 2, that is this, and 3 is like this. So you can now understand very well that what exactly we are going to start with. So always start from the support, unless and otherwise it is not a typical structure, then you can select any location. But otherwise, in typical truss system like this, it will be of no meaning if you directly start analyzing the joint directly from here, because most of the forces are unknown to us and you will not be able to solve it, the equations for sigma v and sigma h. So let us say this is also considered as one joint. So here I have two forces connected, right? And third will be the force which you can calculate from the reaction here. So this force will be calculated based on the applied forces. You can take moment of all these vertical forces, 1, 2, 3, and let us say there is a 4, and likewise there was symmetry, and based on that you can definitely calculate reaction over here. And once you have reaction calculated, you can now apply sigma v and sigma h by simplifying whatever diagonal force is there. You can further simplify in two components. And now we are ready to apply sigma v. So this force will be considered. This also will consider. This is known, so this can be easily calculated. Similarly, once you have this, you can use them in the another equation for sigma h also, and you can come to know this unknown force also. Now, once you have these two forces, now you can use them here and here. So it will be easy to calculate this unknown force further. Now, once you have known this force, you can use it information here. And meanwhile, you can come to this junction also, where this is known, this is also known. So only two unknowns on the other side are there, which you can find with the help of sigma v, sigma h, and finally you can reach here, right? And then you can move accordingly. So all member forces are very easily calculated with the help of two primary equations, sigma v and sigma h together. So this is, I gave you as a general idea, how do we work with truss. So a truss consists of a straight members connected at the joints. Now you know that no member is a continuous throughout the joint. No member is a continuous joint. Continuous member. Here you can see that all are pin connected. These members are pin connection, and this is a member which are connected like this. So this is one individual member, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can recall when we determined internal and external indeterminacies of the truss system also, two-dimensional truss system, we used to use the equation 2j minus 3, right? So that equation you can use, and you can just check that whether my truss is stable or not, right? And this last figure indicates that how the members are subjected to the tension and compression. Most of the structures are made out of the several trusses joined together from a space framework. That means when you add some rafters, you can connect them. Each truss carries those loads which are at its plane and be treated as the two-dimensional structure, right? And there may be a bolting or there may be a welding depending upon the conveniency of the construction. If you use bolt, it will look like this, right? Just to connect these members together. This is the unshaped element is called the gusset plate, and gusset plate is used to give connecting area, and that will be used for connecting the members at a joint. If you have a welding facility together, you can use them to join these two members. However, gusset plate will also be required over there. And finally, when the force tend to pull the member apart, it is in tension. Like here, these two forces are trying to pull the member apart. When the forces tend to compress the member, it is in compression. So here you can see in the other figure where the cursor is moving, these two forces are compressing this member, right? So there is a combination of tension and compression together, right? Now truss is a multi-purpose element. You can see that here two trusses are used to create the bridges. I'm sure that most of you may have come across to these pictures or similar pictures where truss system is largely utilized, especially the steel structural trusses are largely utilized in the bridges which support the trafficular movement, vehicular movement in the railways. Frequently we come across to all this type of truss system, and they are capable to support your decks. This is called floor beam. So floor beam creates a deck, right, on which we walk. So walkway is supported by either side of the truss system, and that we can utilize in the load sharing and load transfer. So ultimately, you don't require any vertical support here, and efficiently you can use the truss system for bridges also. So in short, please don't take it like truss systems are subjected only to the roofing system. No, they can be utilized for the other applications, like one you can see here. And there are another applications of truss system is the transmission tower also. You can use it in the cranes also. Several times we have discussed this. So now our focus will be how the members are subjected to various forces when you apply the point loads over there. So these are some of the examples of different types of the truss systems. Each truss system is connected by the pin connection, as you can see. So all these connections are pin connections. Definitely, why or on what basis we can divide this truss system in various classes, like depending upon the spanning limitations. Because beyond certain spans, a particular type of structural system will not be efficient also, or will not be stable also. So as you can see, the larger the span, more will be the tie members. Here you can see this for the example, K truss is given for bridge utilization, or a Baltimore type of the truss system, which consists many number of members in the bottom. So if you have large span, you can go for these arrangements. Right? Otherwise, the most common trusses are Pratt truss, Hoe truss, and Warren truss. For roofing system, you can see the Pratt truss, Hoe truss, and Fink truss. Fink is most economically made construction arrangement for the truss system. For the industrial roofing, as far as residences are concerned, we go for ideally for the Pratt truss, and the Hoe truss is also equally popular. So other type of the application of truss system is here you can see on a stadium. If you want to have some supporting system, you can definitely utilize some cranes or the cantilever portions, or a bascule. That means when you are digging something deep down in the ground, and if you want to have some machineries, you can create an arm like this, right? So these are multiple application of the truss system. So don't restrict yourself that trusses are only used for roofing. It's not like that. It is having multi-purpose application. And before we go for the solution, one more point is to be discussed, that every truss system requires stability, right? So you can see here the stability of truss is explained. Here in this case, you have a trapezoidal or trapezium shape of the truss system, which is not stable, because when you apply the force, it displaces like this. So if you have diagonal member here, in that case, you can definitely connect them together with the use of diagonal member, another member. Sorry, it's not a, it doesn't look like a member, but now it is straight member. So you can protect this dislocation, right? So the most stable shape which is considered in a truss system is a triangle. So you can use this triangle in flip-flop way also, like you can keep on extending this geometry again and again, and to create the member on a large span structures. So there are definitely some stable and unstable mechanism. However, we recognize this as a simple truss. Simple truss will be the point of our interest, right? So you can confirm that whether the truss is deficient truss or balanced truss using the old equation. 2j minus 3 equals to m, where here instead of n you can use j. J is the number of joints. So 2j minus 3 and number of members, both part A and part B should be equal, then your truss is called perfect truss, right? And if it is not matching, you know what are the other two conditions. If m is greater than 2j minus 3, it is called a deficient, the redundant truss. And if m is less than this, then we can say it is a deficient truss or unstable truss. So that you can check before you calculate the numerical. So this is what we should start with the analysis numerical example, which I can start in the next session. However, but otherwise this will give you a picture, overall picture, how we should go for that. You can see here I have demonstrated how you can obtain the reactions first. This is a very simple example of a primary truss. So you have 1, 2, 3 and 4 joints, and you have 2 plus 2, 4 and 5 members. So it's going to be a perfect truss, and you can determine these reactions by taking moment of this point load at either of the support, and you can start then working on the joints. So likewise, you can start working on a joint by discretization, separation of each joint, and then you can prepare a list of unknown forces in a tabulated manner. So this exactly will be the slide from where we will be starting our first numerical on truss analysis. Today I have provided you sufficient theoretical background. I have discussed the types of the methods to solve the problem. There are two methods, method of joints and method of section. Here in this case, the members are very less, so we can comfortably go with method of joints. So first we'll solve the questions pertaining to the method of joints, and then we'll go for method of section. Now we know that members in the truss system are always either in compression or in tension. No bending is permitted in any of the members because they are very thin members and they cannot resist bending. So it is our job to protect the members not falling into the any of the bending deformation. When bending takes place, it is called buckling in the truss member, and it may fail the entire member itself. So today we had an introduction of the truss and truss systems, and in the next session we will begin. I'll bring my digital pen and all other tools with me so that I can demonstrate the numerical. If possible, you all are advised to once again take your writing tools with you while appearing in the session. So in the next session, we'll start directly the analysis of truss, plain truss, determinate trusses, perfect trusses in the next class. So with this preamble, I'm stopping here for today. I appreciate because most of the students have joined the online session. So I'm very glad to see you all here on the same platform. However, you guys have still not entered your enrollment numbers here and in the chat box. Only 23 entries I can see. However, the total students were 40. So nearly half of the students have not entered the data. So please don't argue that you were declared absent. In the beginning, I have said that you need to enter your names and enrollment number in the chat box. So I'm keeping this window open for next 2-3 minutes. Those who are still pending for the first time, so please enter your details in the chat box. Now it is getting geared up. 30, 40, 34, 35. This is what I wanted in the beginning. So anyways, it's good that all of you have entered your details in the chat box. So thank you again. And as I said earlier, be safe, keep safe, and maintain the social distance. And let's fight back to these conditions. I'm sure that this is a momentary change. Don't worry. We'll be meeting one-on-one in the offline modes also. Don't worry. But till that time, we should not stop our learning. So that is why we are moving ahead with our syllabus details. So in the next class, we'll meet again with exciting exercise on how to determine member forces in a trust system. All right, so after 1 minute, I will be closing off this session so that you can start attending the next session. So thank you once again and stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you all.